Sunday edition with Sean Custis and Henry Winter. Now, with no Championship and no Premier League yesterday, there was a lot of focus on the lower leagues, and particularly the National League. Chesterfield, as we mentioned earlier, got promotion, and down at the bottom, Kidderminster Harriers are fighting for survival under the stewardship of Phil Brown, one of the great characters of the game, still going strong. I'm looking at the screen now. I can see bit of grey hair, bit of a grey moustache, a grey beard. So it's obviously taking out of you a bit, Phil, but you're still loving it.
Sean, have a look behind me. There's the very first, it's a memento of my first game as a manager. Derby County versus Brighton and Hove Albion back in 2005. But obviously, I'd served my apprenticeship under Sam at Bolton Wanderers, as you well know. And that apprenticeship has stood me in good stead, and probably one of the main reasons why I'm still involved in the game. And the Kidderminster Harriers, as you just made reference to, it was a nice day yesterday. Crowds were bolstered all over the place. I was listening to the Bromley manager as I was driving across to Wealdstone, where we were playing. And he was talking about how their crowd was going to get bolstered by maybe 2,000 people. It was a good day, and I'm glad we turned up in the second half. But at half time, my word, you know, when you throw the kitchen sink at a team, it was a very, very small changing room, and I didn't have to throw it very hard, and it would hit everybody, you know.
Was it a Hull City type of blasting?
Well, I was thinking about leaving them on the pitch at half time, and it's accepted at that level, I suppose, to a certain extent. But no, it was it was the worst 45 minutes since I've been there. You know, the lads have been absolutely, Sean, they've been brilliant. They've been absolutely brilliant. And every day in training, they're turning up. They're doing what we're telling them to do and getting on with it to the best of their ability. And everybody keeps saying the words, they're at that level for a reason. That's the one I'm trying to get my head round. You know, we're all at that level for a reason. You know, people say Premier League manager. I'm not. I'm a National League manager. We're in football. We're involved in professional football still. So the word professionalism is the part I want to sort of get my teeth into if I can do, you know, because if you're getting paid to do a job, that's professional. So you do it to the best of your ability when no one's watching. Saturday's everybody's window of opportunity, but the players that I've got they really turn up every day, and on foot, you know, for 45 minutes on Saturday, they just didn't show up. And then the second half, we came out, and it could have been 3-0, seriously, to Wealdstone at half time. And second half, we could have ended up winning the game. We hit the crossbar in the last minute of the game with a set piece. If that drops in, you get 3 points. My word, we're dragging everybody into it at the moment.
What's interesting?
We might have even dragged Chesterfield in.
Phil, we should say, to be fair, when you took over at Kidderminster, everybody was saying they're dead and buried, they were gone, they were getting relegated. You've really rallied, although in the last few weeks, obviously, you've had a lot of draws, which means you're still in the relegation zone. But you have turned them around. I think you've lost maybe 2 in maybe 12 or 13. So it has been a big improvement, but you've still got a heck of a lot of work to do to stay up.
We have, and I've accepted that responsibility of, you know, I'm there for a survival campaign. I'm there for a reason. I signed a contract until the 20th of April when the season finishes, you know, and a lot of people talking about, has a contract been offered? Is there any talks, et cetera, et cetera? Yes, there are always talks. I'm talking to Dean Holdsworth every day. He's in my office every day, and Dean's the director of football. So, you know, I've almost got direct contact to the boardroom on a daily basis. And Dean's got nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide neither, you know. And if we do manage to keep them in the National League, then who knows? I might still be there next year. But it's a great club. It's a really well-run football club, well-supported financially. We had a couple of days last week where the sponsors came in on the Tuesday. The smaller sponsors, if you want to call it, the ones who sponsor the shirts and the training kit, et cetera, et cetera. And then the big hitters, as it were, came in on the Thursday. Myself and the chairman did a presentation to them just to try and get them on board next season. Whether I'm there or not doesn't matter, but the National League is the most important thing. Being in the National League is key to it all, you know, whether I'm there or not, whether the team survives this year and we push on, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are in place. It's just we've got to be in the National League.
Phil, hi, it's Henry. You were bottom when you took over, 7 points from safety. You're third from bottom now, 2 points from safety. Looking at the fans forum last night, there was a discussion with the fans that if you'd been appointed 3 or 4 weeks earlier, you would be safe.
Great to speak to you, Henry, by the way. Thank you for the comments, and I appreciate what they're saying, but you know, I've recently been to Cheltenham last week, and on the same table or the same collective of group of tables that we had, which the chairman provided, the sponsors, the people that he works with, the people that he works, the buyers, etc. Not mentioning too much, but on one of the tables was Russell Penn and Jimmy O'Connor, and that's the former management team, and I've got nothing but praise for them. You know, they've got the first tenure. As I pointed to this plaque behind me, as it were, that lasted 8 months at Derby County, their first job in management, and they were still in work 4 years later. You know, so it's a great run. They've had a fantastic run. They were probably living on their wits for 3 of them years, and then the final season was in the National League, which is the highest they've ever been or ever managed, and they found it tough. And I think the chairman stuck by Jimmy and Russell, and I think it shows testimony to what the man is. He's a genuine guy. He's an honest man. He runs his business the same way. He runs a football club, which is unusual because a lot of people just lose their head when they become a chairman of a football club. You just start running it differently from your business. He doesn't. He runs it like a business, and it's very, very well run, Henry. And I think he stood by him. He's loyal. It's one of his biggest traits. He's loyal to the previous two. And I said to the two guys on the day at Cheltenham, if we survive this year, I want you two on the pitch. I want you two walking around with the team. I want you two to celebrate what we've done here. You might have only got 20 points from 28 games, but it's the previous 3 years, the foundations that they put in place. That they didn't leave me a bad team, Henry. They didn't leave me a bad group of players, and I'm getting the benefit of that because maybe my experience can turn a corner, or I've got a twist in an angle that I come from that they weren't coming from, or whatever. Whatever makes me the manager I am, that Russell, I'm sure, will eventually be there, and so will Jimmy.
What drives you, Phil?
Talking to you two guys for a start.
Thank you very much.
You two have been in the game as long as what I have. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's a great game. And I've heard you talking and griping. Everybody's griping about the England game. I came home. This is my life, you know. I'm on the bus coming back from Wealdstone, and I'm watching Stockport County. What a job Dave Challoner's doing, by the way. He's the next one. He's the next big hitter, I think. Dave's doing a great job at Stockport County. They're wiping the floor with MK Dons, who are playing wonderful football, but they're 4-0 down. And I'm thinking, is that the modern game? Is that the way everything's going? And then I get home and I'm turning the TV on to watch England. And game again, you know, even the Brazilians are playing tippy-tappy football, but they're always renowned for that. They were always renowned for quality. But it's all about that final third for me. If we had broke Wealdstone down in the second half, in that final third, making the right decision at the right time, that's the reason why you go up the ladder. And it's the same in management. You
were talking a little bit about what a club it is, Kidderminster, and how much it almost sounds like you've fallen in love with it a little bit, Phil. I've got a message from Paul from Northwich here who says, please ask Phil Brown whether he sampled the infamous Kiddie Cottage pie at Agborough.
I've sampled quite a few things, but not the Kiddie Cottage pie. I'm going to have to try that now.
You've got to have
That's
a Kiddie
for breakfast
Cottage
tomorrow
pie.
now.
Well, you've been everywhere in the game, you know. I mean, most recently before this, you were in India as well, weren't you? So you're a very well-travelled man. So you must have had a few different foods over the time in different places around the world.
The masala dosa for breakfast. Oh my word!
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Is that all right for breakfast?
It champions it. It really blows everything out of proportion. It's just, you're in India. When in India, do as the Indians do, and I was a masala dosa for breakfast. It was just fabulous. But I'll have to try this Kiddie Cottage pie now.
You will.
Phil, what was that game in Gujarat like when you found your coach blocked in by another coach and there was a goat on the roof?
We were travelling. It took us, planes, trains and automobiles. It took us about 5.5 hours to get to this game. And budgets are tight, etc., as everywhere you go. It's the first question you ask is how much can I spend on this and how much can I spend on that. We ended up in this plane. We flew halfway, and then it was a 3-hour journey on a bus. So I broke it up. One of the kids that we had playing for us was a lad called Robin Singh, and he had done his apprenticeship in this academy that was halfway up to Gupta, wherever we were. And we pulled in and we stopped off, and we had the infamous, the masala tea, and you had a coffee if you were lucky, and this, that, and the other. But I immersed myself in the whole culture. So I had the masala tea. I get back on the coach. We stopped for about half an hour. And I get back on the coach, and this coach was on the outside. And I'm not even going to say a road. I'm not even going to say a lane. It was just in the middle of nowhere, and we couldn't move. And I'm looking to my right-hand side, and I see this guy standing on top of the coach with a goat tethered to his hand and also tethered to the bus. Oh, dear me. Honestly, phenomenal. What I saw in India, I'll never, ever forget, and I really enjoyed it.
All part of the fun in football, and you've had more fun than most, I think, Phil, in the game. This is the Sunday edition with me, Sean Custers, and Henry Winter. Up next, more from football on his remarkable career. Yeah, it's Sunday edition with Sean Custers and Henry Winter into the last quarter of an hour of the show, and we are joined by Phil Brown, the Kidderminster Harriers manager, and it looks like on the screen that tan has faded a little bit. I've got to say, it looks like it's been Kidderminster too long. But Phil, we touched earlier on about the fact you'd been in India, and when you look back over your career as player, manager, you've had an amazing varied career in the game, from top level down to Kidderminster Harriers. And we wouldn't even say now that, even now you're into your 60s, dare I say it, you wouldn't be back up at the top again. You're just always one of the great characters of this game.
I've never lost my ambition, Sean, and I never will. I think it's what keeps me going. It drives me. I want to get back. Of course I do, to the top level, but will you ever get back? I think once you've formed yourself, as it were, however you shape yourself during your career, then people have opinions about you, and you know what, that's 9/10 of the law is people's perception of you. I think there's an awful lot of people that I've came where football's concerned, I've met, and they change their opinion of me once they've met me, so perception is still 9/10 of the law, and it goes a long way when it comes down to employment. It goes a long way with regards to, even supporters. Yesterday, there was a cross-section yesterday of Wealdstone supporters who wanted to get a photograph and have a chat on the touchline while I'm standing in the dugout. And also the Kidderminster Harriers fans who turned out, they're fantastic, great supporters, and they turn up, doesn't matter how far we travel. I mean, the very first week we travelled all the way to Hartlepool United, which was where it all started for me, which was a 5.5 hour journey. And then that was on the Tuesday. And on the Saturday afternoon, we're at Dagenham and Redbridge. Now, it might sound local to London people, but it's still 4.5 hours from Kidderminster. So we've done some miles that first week. And I'm telling you, there was only 55 at Hartlepool, but there was 250 odd at Dagenham and Redbridge. And the 55 that were at Hartlepool were there. So they're really behind the team. I can't fault them, and I'll do everything I possibly can, and we'll do everything we possibly can to keep them in the National League.
Phil, we particularly saw during COVID how important clubs were for their community. Everyone was locked up, but, players and managers and club executives at all levels were ringing fans, were organising food deliveries and things like that. Do you, because of your experience across the sort of pyramid at all levels, I mean, a club like Kiddy in its community, I mean, the pyramid is so important. There's such a sort of debate about the sort of how much money the Premier League should release down the pyramid. But clubs like Kidderminster really are at the heart of the community.
It's a great point, Henry, and it's one that now I'm at that level. I'm absolutely convinced the Premier League can do more. I'm absolutely convinced the Football Association can do more. The powers that be. When I was at Southend, we took a team to Real Madrid. We played Real Madrid's C team. The reason why I'm telling you this, we were sponsored by a Madrid team, a Madrid company, shall I say. And I had the fortunate move to go to Real Madrid's training ground. On the day it was due for Gareth Bale to sign for Real Madrid, we were playing their C team, which is the under-23s, under-21s. And one of the players that played in that game was being offered to me at Southend United as an experience. And the first question the young kid asked me, he was only 20, 21-year-old Spanish lad. He said, so what division is Southend United? I said, second division. He said, so that's the second, as in the second tier? And I went, no, that's the fourth tier. And it's called the second division. So you've got the Premier League, the Championship, first and second. So I'm explaining this to him. He said, so what crowd do you get? And I said, well, we can probably start with 6,500 crowd, and then it'll bolster to 8,500, 9,000. He was blown away. He was absolutely blown away that we can. And I said, that won't be the biggest, by the way. Bradford City's in the same division, and they get 20,000. They just don't. Foreign people, and I'm not being blasé here about English or British, foreigners do not understand we can go down to the fourth and fifth tier of English football and get 4,000 or 5,000 crowd, which we've had at Kidderminster since I've been there. It's brilliant what we've got. The tiers, the levels that we go down to, and the Premier League can never forget that. And I don't think the football world can ever forget that either.
Phil, is that obsession with football, or is that pride in the community?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm not saying my chairman or my owner is obsessed with football. I think he's obsessed with community, if truth be known. And he knows that bringing the two together, it's a way to communicate. It's a way to get people together. It's a way to survive if necessary. Well, you mentioned it, Henry, about, the pandemic. We all went through it. My word. And we all came out of it. Well, sorry. Some of us came out of it. A lot didn't come out of it. And there's still a lot of fallback with regards to that. If that happens again, I mean, should we learn from them lessons? I mean, come on. But I think the Premier League, I'm not saying they owe it to everybody. If you get to them levels and you see the money that's getting banded around, there's a lot of waste. And I know that from experience.
Phil, it's remarkable when we hear you talk and how your enthusiasm still is great being in National League, but you have managed and coached in the Premier League. I mean, I know it's still football, it's all the same in a sense, but I mean, the contrast between you being in the Premier League and now in the National League must sometimes hit you between the eyes, thinking, oof, sometimes I wouldn't mind getting back to those Premier League days when it was all sort of on a plate for you from a point of facilities and expense and all of that.
Sean, honestly, listen to this one. I went into Hull City, Bolton Wanderers, when we were with Sam. 10 acres of land. I know how many football pitches 10 acres of land hold. Mm-hmm. We had 2 3/4 football pitches. We had a gym. We actually made 10 acres of land work for us. And we got to the Premier League and we survived in the Premier League and then got challenged for Europe eventually. But it's all about the organisation, all about the discipline and the leadership, etc. And Sam was brilliant at that. Absolutely fantastic. I've gone to Kidderminster Harriers. We've got a training ground, 55 acres of land. We've got 14 football pitches. Agra holds 5,000 for a non-league football club. I think it's a reasonable football club, that level. 5,000's decent. Will it need to expand if we got to the second division? When Jan Molby was here, he came from Liverpool, and he took Kidderminster Harriers into the second division. And they were in there for 2 or 3 years in the early 2000s. People still talk fondly about that. I think this club can take off. I really do. The 3 pitches that I use are 5, 6 and 7. There's plans to make that the new stadium. But first and foremost, you've got to survive in the National League. You've got to get a plan together. You've got to try and get into the second division. You've got to try and get into the first division. All of these things are thought about, but at least they're thinking that way. And I'm telling you, it's got to have a chance, Kidderminster Harriers. It really has.
Yeah, I was just thinking, did you ever look at the top of the Premier League table at the moment and just think back, you see Arsenal and Liverpool up there, and you just think back to when you were only off the top on goal difference from Arsenal and Liverpool?
Yeah, great days. Absolutely fantastic days. We started that season, and strangely enough, a supporter came up to me and said to me yesterday, a Wealdstone supporter, he said, Marlon King, what was he like to manage? And straight away I go back to them days. It's Marlon King. Marlon King was leading the line for Hull City in them early days, them early stages, with Craig Fagan, with Fraser Campbell, Caleb Folan. That was our team, and we relied on the front two working. We used to call it the 1,000 meter club. If you get high intensity work, 1,000 meters, it became a club. So we had challenges going on and we wanted everybody to get into that 1,000 meter club. Marlon King was 1,500 meters. He took it to the next level. And we won 6 out of the first 9. And it was because Marlon King was doing 1,500 meters. Straight away, he started reading the headlines, believing the headlines, and he dropped down. Henry, he dropped down to less than 1,000. He went to 800, 700, believing he was the man, etc., etc. And then Marlon was unmanageable because he thought he was the best player in the Premier League. Dropped him, left him out. I had 4 strikers. I want somebody that's going to do 1,000 meters minimum. And Marlon fell by the wayside because of that, just because of hard work. I was only asking him to run. Forget about the rest of it. I was asking him to run. But I remember them days very, very fondly where we set ourselves up for a fall big time.
And, yeah, you certainly had your successes up at the top end. I'm not sure that Richard from Leamington Spa was listening earlier on, but he sent in a text, ask Phil if he's tried one of the pies, particularly the cottage pie at Kidderminster. They're amazing. Phil, that's 2 texts at least we've had on the pie. You have got to try the Kidderminster pie and come back to us and tell us what it's like.
They must be watching the video as well. Who ate all the pies? I'll tell you. Phil, I'll be sending them to you two guys for sure at Talksport.
Cheers, Phil. Phil, thanks very much. Phil. Wish you all the best for your survival fight at Kidderminster Harriers. Hope you can stay up.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers. This has been the Sunday edition.